right. Welcome, my friend. This is the first talk of the Great Awakening with my dear friend, Adam Abraham. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Bjorn. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. So today, we are talking to a great audience in Sweden, and we're also talking internationally because we are in the most epic and challenging time in humanity's history and evolution. And we now stand in, the greatest challenge. Are we going to make it or are we not going to make it? There is a very dark agenda going on with a very dark future for humanity. And there is also a very bright future for humanity of all the different timelines talking about this great shift that we're in from the time of Pisces to the time of Aquarius, the golden age. And we are now in the end time of this last negative part of the ruling elite who runs the planet. So we will talk about our inner awakening that is happening now on a grand scale on the planet. We will talk about the outer awakening, and we will end with inspiration and advice on the journey ahead at the end. So let's get started. Adam, I wish to know, because the thing is in this world, as we come to this planet, we're all, small angels with full connection to source energy or God, if we can use that word here. We all talk about the same source, right?
It's permitted, yes.
Yeah, doesn't matter what type of religion or if you're spiritual. I want to give this opportunity to talk about the great unification, not to separate us anymore, but to unite. And we need to understand the ground, the fundamental thing is we come from the same source and we're going back to the same source. And here in between, in the middle, what we call life, let's be friends. So many lose their contact and have a grand thing happening to them early in life or later in life, which awaken them to the source energy again. Some are happy and lucky to keep the source energy alive and well through the whole childhood. So I wonder, how was it for you? How did you get in tune and back in contact with source energy?
Oh, that's a big question for someone who's been around the sun as many times as I have. And I will say this to be succinct about it, that's an ongoing process. I think the first part of that process is as a child, for me at least, the first time, in fact, I came in contact with this phenomena called death. And one of my uncles, he was a favorite uncle for me, and he passed. And we went through the process of, funerals and growing up in Chicago and interacting with family and everything else. But in being explained to me what was actually happening and why my uncle wasn't coming back, so to speak, and then seeing the body and the casket and the burial and all this other stuff, and being told about what this phenomena called death was, it freaked me out. And as a child, I'm sitting here, I'm watching this casket go down and, doing the burial and stuff. And I'm imagining that a being down in that box being put in the ground. And for a child, that is not a comfortable, that's a very disquieting kind of imagination, of vision. And I knew right then. So first of all, you could say that before that happened, I had no concept of death. And in that regard, I had a connection. See, because where I am today is that our connection to source is constant. It's never ending. We just think it's ending, okay? And we think because we have a form and we express through a form, we think that's something outside or other than source. And frankly, without source, we don't have a form, first of all. We can't be here unless life is coursing through us, not as this, but as the animating presence that that's who we are, it's what we are.
Mm.
Now, as a kid, I had no idea that stuff. All I knew is that anytime I start thinking about that, I could even hyperventilate. That freaked me out.
Mm.
And I realized then, so that's even as a kid, I realized this feeling is not, this don't make sense. I don't like it.
Mm.
And if I know that I have to go through that journey myself one day, I think I'd better be about getting over it. Even as a kid, I knew I need to get over this fear of this thing called death, whatever it is.
Mm.
So in many ways, I started my journey then, because where I sit today, death is an illusion. Death is something, if you imagine if there was no death whatsoever, then we'd have a problem. Okay. Serious business. You
Yeah.
start thinking about this. So this can't be the bad thing that we are thinking that it is. And you start looking at all of the measures that are being done today in this society over what? So that you don't have this you don't get tagged with this idea of some type of disease that that's worse than death, apparently, that you have to give up your freedom, you have to give up your intelligence, you got to give up all these things in order to bend to someone else's will. No one is here to do that.
Mm.
I can say this with some great confidence that no one is here on this planet at this time to do those things.
Mm.
So the best thing we can do, though, is to begin to seek, as my dad used to tell me, he told me a few things, but one thing he told me was to seek wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And when you seek those things, and you got to be embracing truth, you got to find out what truth is, and truth will reveal itself to a seeker. If someone really wants to know it, they won't feel content inside until they know it. And it's not to believe. We are doing things right now on the belief of what someone has told us.
Mm.
We don't look at the motives, the ambitions, the profit incentives, and other type of things that go into the advice we're being given, especially when they're telling us to be afraid and telling us to do things that go totally against our own nature or natural instincts. What's a false prophet? So someone who's telling you to do something that's not true, that's not even to your benefit, and they got a chance to profit from it. Okay, I've
Yeah.
updated the thing. So the bottom line is that is where I started,
Mm.
and many of the activities that I've done since, I've learned quite a bit. I'm happy to say about our own nature. And the truth is, our nature is amazing. And death in and of itself is not a destination. It's not even a state. I hate hearing people talk about the dead because dead doesn't exist. Consciousness exists beyond what we consider physical existence.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when do we begin to step into that knowing and take our steps in life today from that place? Because if you know death doesn't exist and you start learning so much about the system that you have been given, this is not a body per se. This is a temple. This is a place of worship. This is a place of expression while I am here. And it's a place where this amazing energy can be shared with everyone in every moment of my life, because being me is my full-time job. Okay.
Yeah, that's
No,
good.
no one else can be me. This is my
Oh,
job. Okay. So my
mm,
job is being the best me that I can imagine, and to
mm,
create the best effects for the greatest number that I can conceive.
mm,
And I can
mm.
conceive of amazing, amazing benefits for everyone as a function of me doing what's in my heart to do, like
Beautiful.
talking with you right now. How about that?
Yeah, love it. All right, thank you for that. That was great. So, we are going to talk about nature's power in water. And before we really dive into that, we also going to talk about the um, actually, this is actually where we branch over to both the inner awakening and the outer awakening, because there is a time when those kind of ties together. And I
Sure.
know for your journey, you came to a serious health challenge that woke you up in a new way. And in today's world, we see how, the curves are like hockey curves. They just go spike right straight up in all people who are getting diseases now. It's normal not to live a whole life through. You get sick along the road and you die an early death. And it's also a lot of pain and struggle and all of that. So there is also these great survival stories, and you are one of them. So could you please share what happened to you and the awakening process there, and where you found the power in water?
Well, this has been a few years ago now. I have had signs. I'm talking, everything I'm saying has to be in hindsight because I'm talking about what's happened before. So I had signs before that I did not recognize as signs of a decline in my health. All
Mm,
right, and I'll put it this way: I don't make a lot of blanket statements except if I think they apply. In this situation, this is a societal, a social thing, because not only do we not recognize the signs that our body gives us of decline,
mm,
and they can be subtle. They can be your eyesight. My
mm,
eyesight, at 10 years of age, I began wearing eyeglasses
mm,
because there was a decline in the clarity of my sight. Now
mm,
I didn't. I'm only learning and understanding this 50 years down the road. Okay, so
mm,
it's not something you pick up right away, but there were other signs as well. But 20 some odd years ago, in the mid 1990s, I had, turns out I had a growth in my jaw that turned out to be referred to as an oblema, and ameloblastoma is what it was referred to. And it was this activity that was happening, and they referred to it as a benign but aggressive tumor.
mm,
I'll explain this in the sense that the ameloblasts that are in my jaw, in the marrow, were now consuming, according to the medical story. And we'll talk about the medical story too, because
mm.
we're right now under the spell of a medical story.
Yeah.
And I'll say it, between you and me,
Mm,
Bjorn, it's a false one. But
mm,
we're all under that spell
mm,
unless we're not, and until we're not.
mm,
So in the meantime, this was growing, and the thing that was of specific pertinence to me, even then, was that they start off by saying we don't know what caused it. Okay, here's medicine with all of their, and I lived in Los Angeles at the time, so this was a major educational system.
mm,
This was at UCLA, at their medical center, their medical school, their dental school. Um, Not a problem of having resources and availability, but they start things off by informing you they did not know what caused this. So, not knowing the cause, their remedy essentially was to resect my jaw. that basically meant 6 surgeries over 2.5 years to take out part of my jaw and then rebuild it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the point salient thing is they didn't know the cause. They haven't. This is the way medical practice is being done, has been done, is being done. Nothing has changed except that the numbers, because even the trends of disease have continued. I don't know, to go up. You know what I mean? It's going. Absolutely. It's continuing to rise. Yeah. And the interesting thing too is that they create a story around whatever the pathological effect is. And there is a branch of medicine called nosology, SOLOGY. And this is where people actually sit down and they look at what's going on. Then they give it a name. They give it a story. And I remember years ago with something that is today called fibromyalgia. A lot of women, particularly, didn't have any energy. They had this, that, and the other. And until the doctors had a name and a story around all of this stuff, they just said, "Oh, it's in your head." Okay. When they got something to treat it, then, oh, this is what you got, etc. None of it makes, getting back to cause. They don't know what the causes are. And so that's kind of where things were. It became evident to me I needed to begin, and I wanted for myself to understand cause. And saying we don't know the cause was not satisfactory to me. And sufficient, after that, subsequently, I've watched so many other people in my family, not just family. My family is humanity, first of all. But so it doesn't matter who is going through this stuff, but still I'm watching people of various degrees of closeness to me go through the same declines and go through the same reasons why people dread what they call getting old, so to speak. And they are starting to expect that they're going to have these similar types of responses when they get older. So it's not, and I've learned that it is not designed. You are not living on borrowed time at 70 years. There are people on this planet who have lived hundreds of years, and there is even a man who won a Nobel Prize in, I think, 1912 or so, Alexis Carrel. It didn't do the chicken much good, but he took a chicken heart and it was a functioning heart. It was still living after it had been taken out of the chicken. But he basically fed that heart, that tissue, he funneled water through it, nutrients through it, and it also allowed and facilitated that heart to pump waste products out, because even on a cellular level, it's a microcosm of what we're doing on a macrocosmic level. You're still taking something in, you're processing it, and you're getting waste products out. And when we obstruct that process, either not let me give you the punchline. He kept that heart operational for 19 years.
Oh, wow.
All right. And when he stopped the experiment, he stopped it. It's not because the heart stopped.
Wow.
He proved the point. We do not have a time date stamp as far as us being here or not. Life doesn't work that way. Man's objective and our way of looking at life does it, yes. But our bodies, when we have what we call age, those are the cumulative effects and consequences of our own choices and the stresses that they have caused. And a lot of it has to do with our relationship with water.
Yeah, actually, what came to mind now when you said that, thank you for that, that was fantastic, is the origin of sin, what really sin came from its origin meaning in Latin. It means that you weren't good at taking care of yourself.
Ah, interesting. And guess what? We even institutionalized that today. Okay,
Yeah.
it's a social norm. You know, it's funny. I did a video, or I wrote an article not too long ago, because it became clear to me that, you know, people talking about getting back to normal. You know, excuse me. Now that I realize normal is in and of itself unnatural, I don't want to get to normal. I want to get to natural. We are even the plans that are being put or trying to be put into place with all of this current stuff going on. The solution is not a natural one. Is totally is unnatural, and our normal, meaning unnatural practices, which are against nature. And see, to me, if we're talking I'll say it this way. Here are some synonymous terms, as far as I'm concerned, at least. You say nature, to me, that is also synonymous with life. It's synonymous with God, whatever you think of it. They're the same thing to me. Okay. If you are sucking air, so to speak, if you're breathing, you're here, it's because life is within you and being expressed through you. Okay. Now, consciousness is another story. Consciousness is our plate. It's the twinkle that allow us to appreciate what the of the stars. You know, you see the stars and you've got this big expanse of darkness, and you see the twinkles, and you can see relative this and of brilliance and color and coloration, everything else. That to me is consciousness, and that's your perceived individuality. But but life is everything else. You know, dark matter. You know, the physicists call something dark matter. They say that 95 or so percent of the mass of the universe is, they call it dark. All right. In other words, they can't account for it, even though, well, guess what? They don't want to say they don't know. You know, they want you to follow everything scientists tell you. And so they're calling 95% of the mass of the universe dark, as opposed to saying, we don't know what this is. Okay. We can't perceive it. We don't understand it. There's no humility there anymore. And we're supposed to follow these folks. So we're following people who are just that still. They're people, and they're at various stages of consciousness. And if you follow someone, if you've taken the effort to learn something about yourself, about your own nature, and about your abilities, and how do you create, and how do you not just, how are you already creating your experience? How are we already creating we have our individual experience, we have our collective experience. How do we go about changing our collective experience? Well, you start by changing your own and coming back into responsibility is not a bad word, but I'll say it's taking ownership again of your own life, of your own choices. Here we're being advised very stringently in some cases to wear a mask to do what? To protect someone else who's already at risk due to their own choices. This is insanity, and yet it's institutionalized. It's being pushed all over the darn place. So we can't simply be angry at the quote unquote elite. There are no elites in my mind. They're just folks trying to figure stuff out and or trying to maintain some illusionary position of authority they think they have. They don't have it except if enough people bow to them as though they have it. That's all we're doing. So, you know, what is this? If that's what you're here, if you think you're here for, that's one thing. I would say au contraire. I don't think you are, but that's just my opinion. All right. ultimately, we are wanting to change. I want to change things because I see, first of all, that the change is possible. And I also see that it's not dependent on what the elites do. It's dependent in what I do for myself, first of all, and in my relationship and in my circle of relationships with others. How do others resonate from or with what I am doing? Are they inspired by this activity? Are they informed in some kind of way?
Mm,
Is their pain lessened in some kind of way? Because their pain is still their creation.
mm,
I can't overcome someone else's choices and consequence of their choices. And in my opinion, there should be a greater appreciation of principles. Okay, the qualitative effects of our choices that come from it. I mean, we today have a situation where if you're being advised to take these if you have this condition that's referred to as cancer, as an example, it basically means that environmentally, your environment is low in oxygen. Your environment is, and because there's another Nobel Prize winner in this case, Otto Warburg. Otto Warburg got a Nobel Prize in 1931, and he saw the relationship between cancer growth and oxygen levels go down, cancer goes up. Oxygen levels go back up, cancer goes down.
mm,
Now, there's another gentleman, he was Swedish, named Bjorn Jorgensen.
mhm,
Bjorn Jorgensen was a noted physician. He, in fact, was on the Nobel committee. You know, this guy was no small potatoes, and he came up with a insight that there was an electrical factor involved in healing, and so he treated. And I think in this case, he treated women with breast cancer,
mm,
and he used electrodes. He put one electrode down into the tumor, and then he took the other and put it someplace else, and then ran a short current. And what happened? The tumor started to shrink, started to go away. There was an electrical factor involved
mm.
with these things. And guess what? Was Jorgensen heralded for his work, for his discovery? No. His profession made him into an asterisk and made him a has-been.
Mm.
You know, when you see these things happen, I can mention time and time again people in different countries doing the same type of things, and the profession that we have entrusted, okay, to guide us into ways of health.
Mm,
Excuse me, it ain't happening, folks.
mm, mm. All right. Um, Great story. Uh, okay, so how about we move over to the nature of the power in water? Because I understand that after you had your cancer and that whole story, it led you to investigate the power of water. Because we now live in a world where most of the water we drink is far less powerful and as it should be in the state it should be than what we get to us. So we are made of 70-80% of water, and to be a high functioning being with immune system in place and everything vibrant, we should have that in the water. So could you please take us to this next chapter in this talk about your passion and mission of water and what you actually do and how you serve humanity with your mission? Water.
Well, it's all interesting. And I think in many ways, if there is a running theme in my life, I'm still the kid that is getting to a place of not being afraid of death. And I'll say it, I am beyond that. I did achieve that. I feel okay, but I relate to the fact that that is something that is ingrained in our thinking. I mean, hell, you really get down to it. How could this thing that's happening today happen unless masses and masses of people weren't afraid of death? Okay, so one thing. Now, water is connected to all of this because the other part of it is when that doctor told me they didn't know the cause, and it's caused me to ask questions. Um, some years ago now, this is 2007, I started a podcast, and I called it Talk for Food. Yep, that's what I call it. And I did 250 of those programs, and oh my goodness, I learned so much. Uh, I started talking to people who were doing something that I felt was significant, that was important, that was meaningful.
Mm.
And I'd ask them questions, and in the question and the answers that I got, it began, you might say, the inner researcher within myself started to emerge. Now, I am an author of a book. I wrote a book and authored it now over 20 years ago called I Am My Body. Not, we're not our bodies. Okay. First, so I did that. I call it an existential book for kids, but it's really for anyone, for everyone. Uh, and doing this though, and talking to these people, I talked to people who had a whole a list of different types of conditions, different types of cancers, for example. They had gotten the cancers, and when I talked to them, they were healthy folks. And in each case, these folks didn't know each other. These were just from time to time. They had the condition decades previous, didn't know each other, different types of cancers. In other words, different types of conditions, because again, low oxygen, low electrical state. All right. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about something that's growing, that's bad, that's came here to do us some harm. A tumor is created by the body for a reason, and life doesn't do stuff willy-nilly. Life does things for a reason because conditions have made them, um, I want to say, not practical, but preferable to what? Checking out. Okay. All right. Life be as that person or being knows it, ending.
Mm.
So I started learning these things, and I started coming across people who had these conditions. I asked them what did they do. They started telling me. It's fascinating. They did different things to get healthy again, but the common thing that these people did over different decades, different places, and everything else, they all said no to what the doctor was recommending.
Mm.
Okay. So doctor recommend this. They say, no, I don't think so. And they start looking out for themselves. Some of them doctors as well. Okay. If you look up Jerry Tennant, let him tell his story. He's on YouTube. He does he talk called Healing is Voltage. There's that electrical factor again. You are electrical beings. Life is electric.
Mm.
So, and, and I appreciate your patience with me, Bjorn. But so the process has been, I've learned about disease. I started asking questions, and I started learning about water. That's kind of how I came about this about 12 years ago. And I came across these devices, a guy that was making these things, and I was not impressed. I was underwhelmed, and but I was intrigued enough. He pointed me in some directions to start doing some research, and I started placing these units. I started reading books, and I started doing experiments of my own. And see, water is ubiquitous. Water is everywhere. It's water is places that we don't even think is it exists, but it's everywhere. It is a it's a medium that it is so ubiquitous. It is so present. You could almost call it omnipresent. That you just it's easy to ignore it. Okay, and yet it makes virtually everything that we know of as life and as experience, excuse me, actually happen. Now, I'm talking from hindsight because these are insights that I've gained over these years. The thing about it is that I did these experiments, and water takes you every place. You start looking at everything, okay, as opposed to looking at uh, the growth, for example, the thing that grosses us out, for example. Okay, something gets popped up, I have a rash or whatever it is. There are people that are watching this and they're seeing the rash, they're seeing this, they're seeing the growth, and they don't understand that that is a natural reaction and response to conditions that that person has created or permitted inside their body. It's not something that's distinct and different from who you are. It's not something, oh, they try to tell you that, oh, this stuff is airborne, so it's bad, and you've just taken it in, and therefore, now it justifies every kind of measure to protect and everything against it. This, I want to call it, it's like a grim fairy tale, but it's just grim, okay? But from my background in growing up, you could call it also a Looney Tune, okay? Except that so many people believe it. We trust it because we haven't asked questions and we haven't found truth that actually makes sense. And I found a lot of informational that's truthful, because truth actually should make sense. All right. If what people are telling us is true, they won't have a problem with us questioning it. All right. When they got a question and when they want to go to the step of punishing someone for asking the question, that's a big sign they're the problem. Okay. And it's their ideas that are the problem. How are we going to change our world? We got to start changing. We got to start vetting the truths that we have believed for all these years without question. We've been doing it innocently because someone told us this or we saw this before. The golden age is not going to come until we are golden. All right. It's
good.
You are creating the goal. Okay. It's not that, okay, I'm going to keep doing these things the way I'm doing. I'm going to keep allowing these things that occur, but the golden age is coming. Excuse me. It's going to be just outside of your reach until you change. All right. So what we're saying and how it relates to water over the years, I've been on, first of all, I've done a lot of experiments. I've seen how things changed when these devices were placed on a water line, and they seemed to do so little, and yet such amazing changes occurred. I mean, beneficial changes. And it turns out that research on this had been done well over 100 years ago. A fellow by the name of Victor Schauberger, who was a naturalist. He was considered or called a forester. Okay. He observed nature, and he started telling people, well, you can do this, you can do that with water. And they thought he was crazy. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. There's that lack of humility. That's that arrogance. And how people who are so convinced that something is impossible, but they've given no effort, no energy of their own to investigate, to seek it, even to have an open mind. people who are more concerned about what their peers tell them or that what their peers agree with than what is actually true and beneficial. You know, these are types of things. Part of how we as a society are going to change is we're going to have to start growing up and owning our own opinions about things, our own truth, and being responsible for it, because we actually have far more power than we think, and I'll say we've been led to think, first of all. But if we don't use it, if we don't use what's called common sense, and we have it, if we don't use courage, it's going to take courage to actually step out of your fear of how someone else is going to reply or respond to your not agreeing with what they just told you, or you're not obeying what they just told you to do, when you know, not believe, when you know it is harmful to you and to those who you love.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone through all of these steps myself. My children, for example, were vaccinated because I was vaccinated. That was another question early in my life. What is this, Mom? And she starts explaining to me what this mark on my shoulder was. And you know, the stuff that they're doing it and the frequency that they're doing today versus going on 70 years ago is like, I can't say night and day. It's worse. It's terrible. It's not. They're not going to change it. If they do anything, they're going to try to do more of it.
Yeah.
All right. That's the addiction. It's not us. They are addicted. Now, are you going to allow it? That's the question. I'm
All
sorry.
right. No worries. It's easy to branch off here because there is many branches on this tree of life. But I want to share how I found you, and it's because I am on this journey myself to develop myself and my body and my health to the ideal levels, the optimal and ultimate levels of health and fitness.
Right.
And one of the fundamental things is water. So I've been on a quest for finding the best possible water to fuel my body with for many years. So back in, this was in the 2002 or 3 or something like that, 4 maybe, I found Dr. Matsuru Emoto and his fantastic mission going all over the world. So I was in Australia and I met him, I saw him doing his talk and his presentation of where he understood the consciousness in water and how incredible conscious water is, and the memory it can keep, and how we can change the memory in the water and the energy in the water and enhance it. But we are not taught this. So he had a fantastic mission that he went on, sharing all this fantastic knowledge about water. And one of the things he did was that he took samples of tap water in many cities around the world, and he froze it. And when it's cold weather and you see the snowflakes on the window,
right,
he showed that result, that in tap water that we drink in most cities, there is no beautiful snowflake. It's blobs, miscolored, misaligned, just awful looking.
Chaos.
Yeah, chaos. And when we drink that, that is something we feed. We feed that chaos and disharmony in our systems. So then he did some fantastic healing work with monks giving prayers to the water. He had children singing beautiful songs for the water. And he then showed the new photo of the water after the healing. And it was this beautiful snowflake again, shining light, right? So that really piqued my interest. And what I wanted to find was a water technology that I could put on my tap water so I get the best water all the time. So I actually bought at that time the best water unit that he actually was involved in selling. But what I found is that you need to change filters quite often, and you can taste the difference when it's new and then it starts to decline, and then you come to a point where it's so bad tasting you need to shift. So I have gone through many water technologies, and they all have this common theme that you need to first invest in an expensive unit, and then you need to invest in filters, which becomes quite expensive year after year after year.
Yep.
Then I found you. One unit, I actually have the first one here. A Vortex Generator, one little magic tool that works like a tornado or a galaxy. This spinning nature fantastic phenomenon happening when the water goes through here. Can you explain what happens when we put this on our tap water under the sink? This is for under the sink or in the bathtub or bathroom.
Right.
And then there are several other bigger ones. But please explain what is going on. What is happening here?
Well, it's motion in, to be succinct about it, it is vortex motion. It is the motion of creation. It is a phenomena that is natural, and it's a part of all natural phenomena. I'm having a tearing moment here. Some part of me is happy and tears of joy, but it is a phenomena of nature. First of all, we can't. This is not something you can improve upon. This is something that you can have at least enough, I want to say, awareness to actually call upon and use in a practical way. So essentially what we are doing, we call our devices vortex generators, and you are showing what you have now. I'll bring this one across. This is one of our latest, but this is what it has evolved to. The one that you have is made from with a plastic body, but the insides and the methods that we employ are the same. We are causing a cluster of tornadic, cyclonic activity. In other words, another way of saying it is like a stable turbocharger. Okay, people can understand turbochargers. They're very, very mechanical. Since the water is moving, we're basically creating a turbocharger effect without any motion on our part. Our talent, a challenge, if you will, is basically to create a structure that is robust enough to handle the pressures. So as much as it seems like this is insignificant, the motion of that water going through that pipe, the forces are tremendous. Hurricanes are considered, they're certainly tornadic events. They are vortex events. They are also electrical events. Tornadoes, which are smaller than hurricanes, are, it is written, someone has figured this out or calculated, are 10 times more energy dense than a hurricane. So a tornado, more energy condensed 10 times than a hurricane. Therefore, the smaller the tornadic event, the more energy dense it is, the more electrical it is. This is natural activity, natural motion, but it is a very electrical phenomena that is occurring, and it is natural. And when we're talking, I recall talking about Bjorn Jorgensen, he increased the electrical state, and this tumor went down, it disappeared. And Jerry Tennant, if you follow I talk about healing his voltage, and he talks about the electrical state of a healthy cell versus the electrical state of a cancerous cell or tumor, and also the electrical state of the that would facilitate healing. Now, what he doesn't say, and I'll put values to it according to him because they do make sense. A healthy cell has an electrical state of around minus 20 to minus 25 millivolts, according to Jerry Tennant. A cancerous tumor, as an example, has an electrical state of plus 30 millivolts. And he says, in order for healing to occur, all he says somewhat obliquely is that minus again 50 to minus 70 millivolts needs to be present and available in order for healing to occur. Now, from where I sit today, the plus and the minus are plus of protons, minus are electrons. Okay, that's how I come to equate all this stuff. That what he does when he talks about minus 50 to minus 70 millivolts, it needs to be within the environment itself. The environment needs to have a surplus, essentially, of minus 50 to minus 70 of electrons, because when you have protons are growth. If you don't have enough electrons to balance them out, to nullify them, to pair with them, you're going to have growth out of the wazoo. Okay. Yeah. And so if you don't have enough protons and you have all electrons, you're going to have disintegration. You need balance of both. It's not one is bad, it's not one is good. So we've been taught this story, the tumor. They even give names to it. The nosologists give names to them. They're malignant. Woo! Oh, they're grave now. And you know something? When people get into this fear mode and this anger mode, it actually creates more protons. It actually makes oxygen less available. By our consciousness, do we start taking ourselves down even more? So, all right. These things. Go.
Yeah. All right. So I like to, because we could talk about this for hours of all the magic that is going on now. This is the latest technology when it comes to water that I think what we're in right now is a paradigm shift. And this paradigm shift comes with a lot of stuff that will go and will never come again. Third dimension stuff, bye-bye. And welcome fifth dimensional technologies that is part of this shift and the golden age. And I have followed you now for many years and seen the amazing results from small homes like myself and the garden and the flowers that get this water, and the feeling in myself getting this water. And you have there big ones for farmers that
we got and bigger still.
Even bigger than that, yes, for big farms. So yeah, friend who are watching this, dear friend, I was told by Adam before we started that you will get a very special offer here. But before I let Adam tell you that, let's just summarize what this really is. So let me tell what I know, and you just fill in the blanks that I missed. So Good. What I have come across, right, is that first of all, we have a system in our bodies which are taking care of us in a way that is so profound and so beyond what we are taught. And when it comes to water, this little unit helps the water molecule to become free again. Because in the water pipes that we have today, it's a cluster of all bad stuff, heavy metals to pharmaceuticals and rubbish that comes in a big cluster. And when we drink that, it won't hydrate our cells. That means that we will not hydrate our body, which will then take the aging process in a faster spin than if we would hydrate our cell. The aging process would slow down dramatically, right? Next thing is that it helps our immune system to help us to be immune. But when we drink the bad water with the clusters, we are bombarding our system with so much trash that we can't take care of it. But when the water molecule goes through this and becomes free, then the kidneys and the liver can take care of the bad stuff, and we just let it take the nature's course through our system. And then it is the next thing is the plant kingdom. When the plant kingdom get this water, they become much more alive because the water is much more alive. The plants will get bigger, more beautiful, and the content in the plants is much more healthy. It tastes better and it has much higher energetic value as well. So I have seen pictures of farmers with two fields, one with the old system water and one with the new system of these big vortexes. And you can see with your eyes the amazing effect of the plants getting this water. So Adam, if you could just summarize this with a few words, and then what should we call it? The special offer for a limited time.
Sure.
So you decide how long is that time and what is the offer?
Well, first of all, to add a little bit to what you said, yes, I agree. There are some molecular changes that occur when water passes through it. The vortex actually, the movement causes work to happen, and the work that is done decreases cluster sizes, liberates oxygen, it breaks up compounds and molecules, and it changes surface tension. We talk somewhat about water in the body as an example, you know, the body being 70 some odd or 80%. But the truth is, every cell must have water. Every cell. So our cells are every place. There's no place in our body that is not made up of cells. And cells only take up water. Cells do not drink Gatorade. Okay. They don't, only water gets in. And water will take in information because water can, in fact, carry information. But a vortex phenomena can clear water of its memory, if you will. Mm. The thing about it, though, and the importance of every time anyone talks about a chronic or degenerative health condition, they talk incidentally or coincidentally, they're dehydrated. They talk about it as though, oh yeah, that's just coincidental to the factor, the issue, whatever the quote unquote disease is. But water not being able to get in the cells, dehydration is causal. Okay, we're talking about the tail wagging the dog, so to speak, in the sense that we are looking at solutions and thinking of them as minor, and we're looking at problems and seeing them as insurmountable. And actually, we need to switch that around. So a hydrated cell is the foundation of our immune system, of a functional immune system. And what we're basically doing when we vortex your water, you put just a vortex unit on the line, it is restoring the motion dynamics, which allows the water to literally fix, energize itself, and it becomes far more efficient. So it penetrates in places where it had not been able to penetrate before. It has vital energy to get into and to be taken up into the cells. And when the cells are actually taking up water again, just like Alexis Carrel with his chicken heart that ran for 19 years, then this basically revives all of those affected areas that presently are not getting enough. If you have a tumor or a growth anywhere, that area in your body is not getting enough water, for one thing. And it may be simply you're not drinking enough. You could start by just drinking more water and making water your preferred beverage. But when you vortex the water and you start drinking more of it, it starts to clear stuff out. A lot of people will even report that once they start drinking water and vortex water, they put our units on, their bodies begin to flush stuff out. They start detoxing because your body's, stuff like that.
Yeah, beautiful. So we're coming to the end of our conversation for today. There is so much we could talk about, so we need to do a second talk where we can dive into more about the specifics of the vortex generators. So let's just do this. For you who watch this, I would suggest that you go into the website presidentwater.com. Is that correct?
That's correct. Presidentwater.com.
And look around, find fantastic stories and the deeper understanding that goes all the way back to Victor Schauberger and other fantastic people who have studied this phenomenon. And how about this little special offer for those who watch?
We are happy to, first of all, I'm honored to be chosen and have the opportunity to be on this forum, Bjorn, especially to be the first English language presentation of it. I thank you for that opportunity and the opportunity to put our little opinions out for one thing and our points of view. But anyone who is watching this and you discover this and are of interest, we would like to also offer a 10% discount with a coupon code of Vortex. You put VORTEXN as in a coupon code. You'll get a 10% discount on your order. But you can reach us. Look up presidentwater.com. Also, you can find us on Facebook as well. There's President Water page there. You can contact us that way. This is a phenomenon, at least as I see it. I see that having a vortex generator on your water line is basically like having a stream or a little brook. It's putting some dynamism back into your water. And this is something we've become distant from as our societies, as our towns and our cities have grown larger and spread out. The logistics of getting water to the domicile has become a bit more problematic. And the process of delivery means straight, smooth pipes that have no variability whatsoever. Water would naturally do these things if it had rocks. Victor Schauberger demonstrated this 100 years ago. It's been done in other parts of the country, of the world. We are not doing it, and we are paying a major price for it unnecessarily.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. So I like to end on a high note, and I know you do too. So how about we call it in Sweden, the little curly tail on the end of the pig.
Right.
To end with a little curly, what did you call it? Curly.
The curly Q.
Curly Q. I like that. Okay.
Good.
So in less than 1 minute, please let us know your feelings and thoughts for the time we're in, to give people inspiration and advice on the time we're in right now and the future that we're heading into.
Well, I'll put it this way. We need to, everyone knows what's inside their heart. Everyone knows how well the future that others are projecting for them fits with what's in their heart to create. And we all have the choice. We have never, ever, without a choice, to follow someone else's vision of doom and gloom or what makes our hearts sing. The place and the time is first removing, dissuading, dissipating conflict within ourselves. That's the thing. That's your full-time job.
Mm.
And when you start doing that, let the love that is you, not within you, but that is you, that flows through you, from you, share it, because that is the part of you that is actually unlimited. And that's what will change. That's what will bring the golden age. It ain't going to be anything. It's not going to be a vaccine. It's going to be your love, your truth, your respect. And only you can do it. No one can do it for you. Let's make it happen.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Adam, for today and everything you have shared.
Thank you,
I love
Bjorn.
what you do. I love what you do, and just keep on going. You're doing a phenomenal job for so many. So please, friend, if you like this so far, take a closer look at the website and find so much more fantastic stories. And I think we're going to have to come back in a later time to talk more about this phenomenon, because this is just the beginning of water and what it can do for us. All right.
Indeed.
Thank you, Adam.
All right.
Thank you for all who, thank you for all who have joined, and keep an eye on this channel, because there will come much more. All right. Bye-bye for today.
Bye.
Bye.